The thing about infrastructure building out as fast as it is right now is even a year ago, if you had range anxiety, the technology that we have on our phones, which gives us access to 5, 6, 10 different application stations, it's at your fingertips. And there's even assimilators and consolidators so that you can even get in your car, push a button and see where your closest stations are. So the thought process of where would I charge, when will I need to charge next, that's really out of the equation now.
This is Middle Tennessee Electric's Plugged In Podcast. This podcast focuses on the world of electric vehicles. It is for all EV enthusiasts, whether you are an early adopter and have been driving an EV for years, or you're just starting your research, this podcast is for you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Wagner with Middle Tennessee Electric's Plugged In Podcast. Amy had a well-deserved vacation this week, but I had a chance to sit down with Josh Witt, one of our EV Car Club members, to talk about his recent Hyundai Ioniq 5 purchase. The two of us had a chance to sit down and talk about EVs in general, his Hyundai Ioniq experience, as well as all the research he did making that purchase. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Josh, you have a Hyundai Ioniq 5, and I've had some car club members who've called me and asked me about different models that they're thinking about, and one of them that I'm frequently asked about is the Hyundai Ioniq 5. So first of all, I appreciate you being here. It is Veterans Day. I know you're a veteran, so I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for your service. And just introduce yourself for us, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, it's always fun to talk about EVs because whether we like it or not, it's kind of the wave of the future. And no one knows exactly how it's going to turn out just yet. There's a lot of infrastructure we got to build out. But today I can tell you that I'm a guy who works in strategy for a living. And there's a lot of strategy behind where EVs are going. Technology is fascinating, and if you roll back the clock just 10 years, I've watched this evolve into something where when I had my first occasion here in June to buy one, I didn't hesitate. And that's a little bit about what I do and how I do it and how I ended up in your EV Car Club.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I'm curious, you landed on the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Give me a little bit of an idea of what drove that decision. Is it the first Hyundai you've ever had?
You know, I've had Hyundais for years, and their warranty is second to none. The local dealer network is outstanding. Some of the greatest professionals I've ever seen in the car business. And when Hyundai introduced the Ioniq 5, it was an extension, obviously, beyond the old Ioniqs that were hybrids. And this was just a game changer. I mean, where else could you get a vehicle for $40,000 to start that has a 212-mile range, has an amazing warranty, and just an unbelievable support network behind it? So I could go for days as to how Hyundai really convinced me as a former Hyundai owner, one who still currently has 3 of them, and one who really thinks that the Ioniq 5 and 6 are going to be the future.
I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about the warranty?
You know, Hyundais are unique because these warranties are kind of confusing to folks, but it's pretty straightforward. I mean, imagine bumper-to-bumper coverage for 5 years, 60,000 miles, because there's just a lot of technology in these cars, and the bogey, if you will, is not knowing what it would cost to fix something. So when you can drive 60,000 miles and know that a dealer is going to take care of that for you, that they'll provide services when you need them, it gives you a lot of peace of mind. I suppose from that person who says, you know, EVs are too expensive too. Plenty of $40,000 cars out there today, but they don't offer that degree of warranty. So that's important. But you know, the other issue about EVs and warranties are the batteries. And legitimately, I've had hybrids before, but this is the first true EV that I had. And to have a 100,000-mile warranty, knowing that Hyundai stands behind what they're doing and that they're really trying to help the customers really adopt this technology means a lot.
Oh, that's interesting. I did. So you were a hybrid owner before going full EV.
Yeah.
I guess range anxiety probably, it's something that bothers everybody, but you probably had a good grasp of that going from a hybrid to a full battery EV.
You know, the thing about infrastructure building out as fast as it is right now is even a year ago, if you had range anxiety, the technology that we have on our phones, which gives us access to 5, 6, 10 different application stations, it's at your fingertips. And there's even assimilators and consolidators so that you can even get in your car, push a button and see where your closest stations are. So the thought process of where would I charge, when will I need to charge next, that's really out of the equation now. And that's changed just in the last year or two. But those stations have also increased in speed. So the other issue beyond range anxiety is how inconvenient is it to charge in the midst of a family trip or just getting from here to there. So these are things that are happening so fast, especially with a car like the Ioniq.
Yeah. You've got your sons here, Kenny, Lincoln, and Barrett, and I'm curious. Sometimes these cars, people think of them as small and not good for a big family like that. You have any issues with the size of the Ioniq 5? I mean, you got quite a carload this morning, and that's okay. And you're planning on a trip too, so no space issues?
You know, the Ioniq 5 does not have a frunk like a lot of them do. And there's a lot of business reasons as to why Hyundai didn't invest in that. But they have a ginormous back seat area that actually on the trip we'll talk about later, I was able to lay down the seats and have a camping area in the back where it was completely flat.
Very cool.
So you have space at your fingertips that you just wouldn't normally have. But as most EV owners will know, you have a flat floor. And so where you typically have these drivetrain humps and areas that take up space, it's expansive in there, and lots of leg room for a guy like me, and lots of headroom. But it's just very comfortable for long expanses. I can't emphasize enough how Hyundai has really made an ergonomic experience for the buyer.
That's interesting. So obviously you're all in on the Hyundai brand, and you've noticed that ergonomic design. How do you? Were there other EVs you were considering before you landed on the Ioniq 5?
Yeah, I guess you could say I've been a long-time listener, first-time caller in that way, because I made the order for the Tesla 3 the moment, and I mean like the moment that the deposits were taken years ago, but never followed through because it took too long and just gave up hope. The moment that I could purchase a Hummer EV, I went ahead and put down the $100 deposit for that, and of course we don't expect those still for another year or two. But I am very much committed to EVs at large, and Hyundai, with the product and the price point that they're offering right now, is just a value proposition you can't beat. Yeah. It really goes toe to toe, and in fact I love pulling up alongside Teslas, who paid $80,000 to $119,000. I came up on an EQS the other day and a Lucid Air. These are vehicles that are crazy price points. A family guy like me can't afford $100,000 for an EV, but to buy one for $40,000 plus tax and license, that's a whole different ball game. And so yeah, I'm committed to Hyundai, but I'm committed what Hyundai's doing to really promote this. They're making them available, they're making them dependable, they're integrating technology that takes away things like range anxiety, and I think that long term they're going to be a great player.
That's awesome. I told you we've had some folks that have called in, and one of the things that's interesting, I've heard this a lot about the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6, is that people will see pictures of them on the internet, and they're not really all that impressed. But then they see one in person, and it's a totally different experience. It is. One person told me they just stopped by a Kia dealer, and they said, I got to have this. So. For those folks who are sort of thinking about different models, if Hyundai Ioniq 5 is on their radar, what would you tell them to consider?
I'm emphasizing a price point at $40,000 because mine is a standard range and gets about 212 miles on a full charge, and it charges very quickly. I can get 80% on there in just about 18 minutes. Wow. So that technology has really improved on the Ioniq. So again, price point wise, you get a lot for your money. But beyond that, you can get a fully outfitted all-wheel drive Hyundai Ioniq 5 for right around $60,000. So that's a big delta from 40 to 60, and sure, there's a beautiful sunroof and all sorts of things that you add to it. But for $40,000, I don't know of a single vehicle out there that I'd rather drive. It really delivers a lot of value, not just in the savings on gas, obviously, but it's fun to drive. The 0 to 60 time on it, the fact that it's completely silent. In fact, in our family, we joke it's kind of our family Millennium Falcon, I guess it was called, because you feel like you're in a spaceship with your dashboard and your complete silence. And again, I'll come up on folks side by side at a stoplight, and they're in their big diesel pickup trucks, and they accelerate quickly off the light, and I accelerate quickly off the light. Mine's completely silent, where theirs is blowing smoke and just sounds crazy loud. Yeah. Maybe that's cool, but and in fact, I've driven plenty of big trucks in the years. That's why it's kind of paradoxical that the former soldier, 6'2", 220-pound guy, also loves his EV.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that I think is going to make a lot of sense in the future. We're going to continue to see the price points come down. The infrastructure is building out exponentially fast. We're seeing the government interventions with the tax credits. I mean, that's obviously going to help a little bit. But beyond that, we're really investing in something which is fun. And I think that ultimately the EV experience is fun. Not cheap, but it can be cost effective to the tune of the good warranties and the fact that you don't have to pay $5.15 a gas like we were back in June and July.
Right, yeah, you're right. They're not cheap. But there's no cars that are cheap right now. I mean, everything's expensive. They're competitive, so from a price standpoint, it's not it's not a huge leap. You're not spending a ton more to go EV. So we've talked a lot about the good things about the Ioniq 5. Is there anything that you wish was different?
I probably spend a lot of time talking myself into how much I love the car because there are so many good things. But I think that rear-wheel drive decision for the Hyundai Ioniq 5 was a bit of a stretch. And they knew bringing that to the States in rear-wheel drive that was going to be a question for folks in different parts of the country. I saw a test drive up in Canada, for example, where in the snow, sure, if you're dealing with 6 inches of snow, any rear-wheel drive is going to be problematic. But when you have your center of gravity so low as you do in the Ioniq 5, and when you have the traction control capabilities that you have, I don't see it as a drawback, but I have seen that identified as a potential problem on the standard range edition, that rear-wheel drive could get you if the weather was bad. Thankfully here in Middle Tennessee, we don't have that problem too often, so I'm not worried.
That's interesting. Okay, that makes sense. 212 miles. You ever find that it's not enough for you?
The one time that my daughter drove it from a Mercedes dealership back home to Old Hickory, she got it down to 1 mile. And I don't think she realized just how scary that was. Of course, I was watching her on my Hyundai app, and I realized it was going very quickly. But yes, she got it home, and in that moment, Dad was a little bit worried that maybe we were going to have a problem. But the range issue on any of these EVs right now is so easily managed with just a little bit of forethought and proactive consideration. Again, you can push a map button on the Ioniq 5, and it'll show me a complete spectrum of different stations that are in range. The ones that'll give me a fast charge, the ones that might take a little bit longer, so I need to plan where I'm having dinner that night or go shopping. But the fact is that decision making is no longer something I have to really deliberately think about a whole lot. It's a lot more intuitive now.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the app? I kind of find that folks, they either, not all of the EVs have an app. I find some people that love to look at the data that the app gives, others, they don't seem as engaged on it. What are some pretty cool features about the app?
The Hyundai BlueLink app is free for the first couple of years. And in addition to that, the agreement that Hyundai has with Electrify America means that when you download that app simultaneously, you can receive free charging, and I do mean free charging, unlimited for the first 2 years of ownership. So I have 2 apps on my phone for my EV. Of course, one is the BlueLink, where I can start the car remotely. I can lock the doors, unlock the doors. I can check the battery. I can basically stop charging so I can walk downstairs, unplug it, and get to work. And that app is very intuitive, and again, it's included from Hyundai, and it's one that really works well. The Electrify America app is not without its kinks, plenty of work that they can do to improve their infrastructure. But here in Nashville, and of course with one station in Cookeville, we've got DC fast charge capabilities at our fingertips. And so by the airport and then down in Brentwood as well, you can go down there and in 18 minutes, you can get a full 80%, which will take you 200 of those 212 miles. And the fact that you can do that and find where those stations are, if they're available stations, when you pull up, or which ones might be disabled at the moment, that makes the whole process just a lot easier.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to wrapping this episode up, but I want to switch gears just a little bit. You're a strategy guy. You've obviously done a lot of research, not just on the Ioniq 5, but the entire industry. I want to ask 2 questions to kind of close. One is, what is something that you see on the horizon that maybe other people are not really getting a lot of coverage on in the industry in general? And the second one, you mentioned the Hyundai Ioniq 6. What are some cool things that you're excited about with that vehicle?
Well, I'll answer the first question and before I dive into the 6, because that's exciting too. In the room here are 3 of my sons, and we have a stockholder in the room of Nikola, which is Lincoln over there, and he's followed Nikola for about a year now, and it's been a terrible, terrible disaster, like so many stocks in the EV space. But Nikola is not just investing in EV technology, they're investing in hydrogen. And so I think that could be part of the future, where we look at an extension beyond electrifying, if we will, our cars to maybe where hydrogen could have a role, either in commercial or even in retail consumer space. And you see that too in California, where they're challenged right now in their electrical grid, and the question becomes, how am I going to put hundreds, maybe millions of cars on the grid when we can't even keep the lights on today? So that would bode a question as to how hydrogen could be a good alternative, and Nikola's on the front lines for that. Also in the room is Kenny, who is a stockholder in Lucid. And Rawlinson, who's one of the folks who started Lucid, is really investing in battery technology. And I think that's the future. While Tesla's doing great things under Musk's leadership, I think that we're seeing Lucid really take a different angle of where that range anxiety is no longer an issue. You can go further than you could on a tank of gas. And so the infrastructure builds out at the same time that the battery extensions are improving. I think you could see a real win there with Lucid if they could ever bring their price point down. But the other about the Ioniq 6 is just where you see a continuous improvement model with Hyundai. They're not resting on their laurels. They're constantly changing the game. And you thought the 5 was beautiful in the pictures and in person. The 6 is just next level. And that's going to cost a little bit more perhaps, but you're just going to continue to see this evolution of where technology is meeting opportunity, and Hyundai seems to be committed.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I need to go research the Hyundai Ioniq 6. I saw my first Lucid in the wild in Tampa Bay recently, and I was driving my Toyota Sienna, and it blew right past us. But I elbowed my wife and said, "That's what is it? $140,000, $150,000 car?"
Yeah, there's one that's over $200,000, the Sapphire.
Wow.
And they are introducing the Air Pure next week, which is supposed to start at $89,000. Still out of my reach, but that'll be getting it down a little bit.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your experience. I know we're going to have questions from folks in the Facebook group and other places, so I may ping you for some more follow-ups, but I appreciate you sharing with us. Well, we certainly appreciate Josh and his family coming in to be on our podcast. If you have any questions for us or any comments, please share them at our Facebook group or email us at evcarclub@mte.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to plug in, power up, and drive safe.